On the 25th of April, 1997, the residents of Los Angeles were shaken by a moderate earthquake, measuring 4.9 on the Richter scale. Buildings shuddered, trees shook, and residents took cover inside their homes. There were some minor injuries as a result of falling objects or road traffic collisions, but overall, the damage was limited. The city had endured similar quakes most years in recent memory. Although disruptive, it was not any great cause for alarm. Los Angeles residents went about their business, unaware that the tremor they had just felt was the herald of a much larger catastrophe. Los Angeles is and always has been a city prone to earthquakes. The state of California is the second most seismically active after Alaska, with around 10,000 quakes a year. The vast majority of these are so minor that most residents do not feel them, but occasionally a significant quake will be felt in the city, which is based in a deep, sedimentary basin. This basin amplifies movement, making the city shake in a way that is often described as being like a bowl full of jelly. In 1997, quakes were such a routine part of life that some Los Angeles construction workers had modified their laptop mapping software to enable them to place bets on the magnitude and epicenter of tremors. Most residents knew that tremors were a possibility, and were well versed in how to safely take shelter when one was felt. Earthquakes in general can be extremely damaging, but because of its history, Los Angeles has some of the strictest building codes in the United States. This means that most buildings within the city limits are capable of withstanding the highest magnitude quakes that are likely to hit LA. The 25th of April 1997 was a bright and sunny day in Los Angeles. At 9:14 a.m., the city was shaken by a moderate quake measuring 4.9 on the Richter scale. This caused alarm and disruption throughout the city, but resulted in relatively few injuries. Within a matter of hours, some degree of normality had resumed. At around 11 a.m., however, an accident took place in MacArthur Park. 7 city workers carrying out maintenance on a storm drain in the vicinity of the park suffered severe burns while underground, with the injuries being fatal in all but one instance. The surviving worker was left in a critical condition and was unable to report exactly what had caused the accident, but officials assumed that the workers had encountered a high-pressure steam pipe or steam pocket. Mike Rourke, the director of the Office of Emergency Management, sought to have the park closed and gas supplies shut off, but was overruled by the heads of other departments. The situation, despite the worries of a consultant seismologist, appeared to be under control, and no further action was taken that day. Small aftershock tremors continued through the night, until around 5 a.m. the next morning, at which point the situation rapidly deteriorated. An unprecedentedly massive quake struck the city, causing significant distress and damage. Mere minutes later, the La Brea tar pits erupted, bursting into flames and spewing out a mixture of steam, hot gases, and molten rock. The La Brea tar pits are a long-standing Los Angeles research site and tourist attraction, comprised of a number of small lakes of crude oil which naturally seeps up from the ground beneath. Over many thousands of years, this oil has hardened into natural asphalt, sometimes trapping and preserving animals therein. Now, these pits of seeping crude oil caught fire. Drain covers exploded out of nearby roads in plumes of pressurized steam. Buildings caught fire. Smoke and falling ash filled the air, and a huge quantity of what could only be described as lava spilled from a newly formed vent in the tar pits. Against all odds, and as swiftly confirmed by the US Geological Survey, a brand new volcano had formed right in the middle of Los Angeles, and it was now erupting violently, in scenes eerily reminiscent, but technically distinct, from the film Dante's Peak. Director Mike Rourke of the Office of Emergency Management happened to be driving past the tar pits on his way to work at the time, and was caught in the chaos. He personally offered first aid to injured persons and witnessed the destruction of a fire engine by a volcanic bomb being a burning volcanic rock ejected from a volcano during its eruption. These scenes were broadcast live on local news, spreading fear and panic and resulting in sporadic outbreaks of looting. The National Guard was activated to help contain the emergency. As lava began flowing down Wilshire Boulevard, Mr. Rourke began coordinating an emergency response. Concrete road barriers were assembled into a horseshoe-shaped dam at the end of the street. Fire engines and firefighting aircraft were held in reserve. When the lava reached the dam and began to pool there, a huge amount of water was released onto it, cooling it and rapidly causing it to form a crust and become, in effect, a natural dam. Following this remarkable containment, the media was quick to report that the danger was over. But this was incorrect. The lava continued to flow along existing underground tunnels. Seismologist Amy Barnes worked with Mike Rourke to track these lava flows and determine where the molten rock would emerge. To their dismay, this would be Cedars-Sinai Medical Center, the location where the vast majority of those injured in the chaos up until this point had been taken. Indeed, Mr. Rourke's own daughter, having sustained mild burns, had been evacuated to the hospital, as it was believed to be the safest staging point for casualties. The end result of this was that the hospital was dangerously overcrowded, with patients sheltering in the parking lot and in nearby businesses. Surgeons worked to carry out emergency life-saving treatment under portable lights. The hospital was given just 30 minutes to evacuate, an almost impossible task given the number of injured and the complex nature of many of their injuries. In a last-ditch effort to divert the lava, Mike Rourke and seismologist Amy Barnes oversaw a plan that involved blowing up a newly constructed tower block in order to create an artificial dam and redirect the lava into the nearby Bologna Creek, along which it could flow to the ocean. Incredibly, this plan was successful, an extraordinary feat given that it usually takes weeks to safely and accurately demolish a building such that it falls in a predictable way. In this case, police explosives experts were able to drill pilot holes, place and wire explosives, construct sandbag bunkers, and clear the entire area within just 19 minutes. With the lava flow now contained and being naturally cooled by the ocean, the immediate danger was over. All that remained was to treat the injured, recover, and rebuild. Dozens were killed in the disaster, including one city worker who died while rescuing the driver from a stranded underground train, and 2 policemen who became trapped in the tower block just before it was blown up, and knowingly did not delay the demolition, sacrificing their lives so that the hospital and its many patients could be protected. Also lost was one colleague of seismologist Amy Barnes, who fell to her death in an extremely cinematic steam vent while carrying out early explorative work with her colleague. She was greatly missed, but also never mentioned again. Though he had been instrumental in coordinating the emergency response, OEM director Mike Rourke later faced criticism for remaining in the danger zone, instead of returning to the agency's command center where his skills and knowledge could have been more easily put to use. Indeed, his actions on the day had left him trapped by burning trees and the progress of the lava on multiple occasions. He had also stolen a police motorbike and spent valuable time attempting to use a pneumatic drill to create a hole for explosives, despite no training in this area, something that critics said represented poor resource management and a failure to manage a chain of command. Mike Rourke responded by claiming that he was on vacation. He and his daughter both survived the disaster, despite being constantly in close proximity to extreme danger throughout. Their survival was all the more miraculous given his daughter's unique medical condition. She suffered from a chronic inability to independently run away from approaching danger. Mike Rourke later retired and handed over to his successor. He continues to live in Los Angeles, where he enjoys motorsports, music, and the company of close friends. There are unconfirmed reports that he and seismologist Amy Barnes later began dating, but these rumors are shaky at best. The cone of the volcano formed during this disaster remains visible in the middle of what was once the La Brea tar pits. It is still active, but up until this point its eruptions have remained under control and have not yet necessitated a sequel, as entertaining as that might be.